he was singing the first song, Victory in Jesus. Of course, he sought me and he brought me. You stop and think about it. If you haven't, do it now. He searches for you. He searches. We didn't go looking for him. He searched for us. He sought us out, and then he bought us. He purchased us with his blood. You know, that's kind of an awesome thought, at least in my book, that the king of this universe, the creator of this universe, would take time out and think that I am special enough and that I am important enough that he would go looking and searching for me. Amen. It's not that he doesn't have any other thing to do. Look around and you see what shape this world is in. And yet he still is God enough and big enough and powerful enough to go searching, seeking and finding. Hallelujah. I want to share some. I'm going to ask Donna or somebody if they'll close that back door. That usually bothers me, but if you would close that, I appreciate it this morning. Where they're doing reconstruction work back there. I want to take just a few moments this morning. I won't keep you long unless the Lord decides to keep me a little longer than what He's given me thus far. I want to share some thoughts with you that I think we can all relate to, that we will be able to relate to. Because I think oftentimes in our Christian experience we stop and if there's one question that we could always ask, or that we do always ask, it would be a one-word question, that is why. Why is this happening? Why does that happen? Why isn't this being done? Why aren't you answering? We could go on, why? It's all one word, why. We've all been there, haven't we? Amen. Let me start off with sharing with you some thoughts of a young missionary during his first month on the mission field. Now, I think we can all agree that if someone's going on the mission field, it's because they have had a definite call on their life. To go. To leave home, to leave family, to leave everything behind, and in most every case, go to some foreign land where they're not familiar with the people, the language, the culture, the food, etc., etc., etc. So listen to these thoughts from this missionary. On the flight to the field, the next time this plane touches down, I will be a missionary. Yes, finally, to God be the glory. Day number 2. I keep telling myself that homesickness is temporary. I must remember the reason I'm here. Not for my own joy or for my own gain, but for the growth of God's kingdom. Day number 3. God, it is a grand blessing to serve you. The people are so friendly and our friends are so gracious. Day number 4. It's difficult for us to think about home. We cried this morning. Day number 5. Today is not so clear. The clouds have buried the mountains. The sky is gray. Day number 6. Yesterday was the toughest day thus far. The newness is gone. I'm tired of this language. We could hardly think of our families and friends without weeping. Day number 8. This hotel room is so impersonal and cold. I held my wife as we wept, and we both confessed the ugliness of the thoughts of spending the rest of our lives in this foreign country. It is hard. We are so far away from home. Day number 10. I know God is guiding us, but it's hard. When will we find a house? How will we learn this language? And then his last entry. I wish I could say I'm thrilled to be here. I am not. I am only willing to be here. This last week week was as tough as I've ever had anywhere. My commitment to the missionary field feels like a prison sentence. Now, that may sound, or maybe I'll just ask the question rather than make a statement, does that sound a little strange coming from an individual who was obedient to God's call on his life? I mean, we all said at the beginning, we all agreed that if somebody's going on the missionary field, it's because there was a definite call on their life to go and serve God, right? Haven't changed your mind yet, have you? So, that sounds a little strange, or does it sound a little strange coming from somebody who knows that God has had a call on their life to go and serve the mission field? Instead of everything going right, it looks, or he, in his eyes at least, it seems as though everything has gone wrong. But how could this happen if he was faithful to God? How could everything go wrong if he was obeying God, if he was doing what God had asked him to do, if he was obedient to the call of God on his life? Does that sound familiar to you? Haven't we all obeyed God, and yet haven't we felt abandoned? Because in our own mind, after all, doesn't peace follow obedience? Isn't that what we think? If we're obedient to God, then peace must follow that obedience. That's our human mind's conception of being obedient to God. If I'm obedient to God, then obviously peace is going to follow. I've done everything God's asked me to do. I'm doing exactly what He wants me to do. I haven't veered to the left. I haven't veered to the right. I'm on that straight and narrow. I'm doing exactly what God's asked me to do. And yet all these things keep happening. These problems keep coming at the heart. I want to share a scripture with you this morning that I don't know, some of you keep tabs on when I preach and what I preach and so forth. So you may see my name beside the scripture. In fact, I'm sure you will. Matthew chapter 14. Very familiar scripture. You don't even need to turn there, but I know you will anyway. That's okay. Matthew 14, starting with verse 22. This is after Jesus has fed the 5,000. Remember, they came to hear him preach, to hear him lecture, to give his theological ideas and beliefs on life, et cetera, so and they didn't bring lunch. So he's fed 5,000. That miracle has just taken place. So the 21st verse says, and as they had eaten, about 5,000 men beside women and children. And then starting with verse 22. And straightway, yours may say immediately, right after at any rate. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a boat and go before him unto the other side while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on a mountain privately to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. The disciples probably had the same expectations there that this missionary that I just read to you had. Everything will be okay because we're being obedient to God. Get in the boat. They got in the boat. Did they question him? No indication they questioned them at all. They just did what he said. They got in the boat. They just simply obeyed God. Now they could have objected. I mean, human nature would say, look, we've been here all day, God, Christ, we've heard you preach, we're tired, we've fed these 5,000 people, we passed out the food, we've taken up the fragments that's left, it's been a long day, do we really have to get in the boat and go rowing to the other side? Now, can't we wait and do it tomorrow morning? But they didn't do that. They just got in the boat and did as they were instructed. I mean, it's evening, it's darkness, it's about to fall. I'm tired. So they obeyed God. And what was the result? Verse 24, but the boat was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. They did exactly what Jesus told them to do, and what happened? They were in a storm. They were tossed in the sea all night, and Jesus was not with them. We just read to you the verse prior to that he was not with them. So they do exactly what he's asking them to do. They get in a boat, and they get out on the sea, and the storm comes up. They had just finished, the disciples had just finished feasting with Christ. They had just witnessed a great miracle with Christ they've been involved in. Feasting with Christ, and now a storm. Feast, then famine. Sunshine and comfort, and then clouds and storms. It was fair weather when they started, but the storm arose when they were at sea. You see, it's in our times of peace and tranquility that we have in our lives that we must prepare for troubles. Because troubles will come when we least expect them. And we should not wait until we're in the midst of a storm to start trying to weather it. You have to be prepared before the storm comes, not after it starts. Now, I know that I'm talking to some seafaring guys here that know much more than I do. But I can almost assure you that they learn what to do in troublesome times and in fair weather as well as foul weather. When the storms came, they knew beforehand. Didn't wait for the storm to come. Oh, well, now what do we do, Captain? Captain said, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, this is what you do since you're in the midst of it. They learn beforehand. So as Christians, we must learn to prepare for the storms in our lives when it's peace and calm in our life. Not when we get in the midst of the troubles. You know, I think we can all agree that it's one thing to suffer for doing wrong. We should expect that, shouldn't we? I mean, now we don't go out and say, flag down a patrolman and say, hey, give me a ticket because I've just broken so many laws here, do we? But, and if we break laws and we get stopped and get a citation, we should expect that if we were doing wrong, correct? But do we expect to suffer when we're doing right? Should we expect to suffer when we're doing right? That's what the disciples do. They were doing exactly what he had asked them to do. They were doing what was right, yet they found themselves in the midst of a storm. Well, one thing that this